everyone, welcome to episode 4 of Shine a Light series for International Women's Month. So today we're switching it up a little bit. You'll know me, my name's Chloe and I'm Marketing Insights Manager. Instead of having Cheriece asking the questions today, we've actually got her in the hotspot answering the questions. So I'd like to introduce you all to Cheriece. Hiya.
Hey.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm so excited for us to have this chat because I know that we're both really passionate about women and gender equality, and we speak a lot about this off camera. So I'm really excited to have you here and to bring our personal conversation onto camera today. But for those that don't know you, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Cheriece Hylton. I'm a design and implementation executive within the customer experience team. So I primarily work with our customer digital journey team, and I support from a systems integration perspective. And a bit more outside of my role, I'm an athlete. So I do 400 meters.
Incredible.
And I'm also a UK champion for an amazing organisation called the Global Partnership for Education, which aims to get all children 12 years of quality education throughout the world. So yeah, that's a bit about me.
I love that so much. Tell us more about the athletics.
I started when I was 12. I've always been super sporty. My parents pretty much just pushed me into a sport when I was the age of 2. So I danced for 10 years. And then I got into athletics at the age of 12 and I sort of was doing okay. And then I took it a little bit more seriously and I started to train more, like 3 days a week, 4 times a week. And I was doing pretty well at it. And just really progressed since then, really.
I feel like this is a perfect place to start because we know that sports and athletics traditionally can be a really male-dominated space. Do you have like any early experiences about how your gender may have impacted you in the sports industry and in the sports world?
To be honest with you, I think we're quite lucky in athletics in that every event, every competition, every major champs is broadcasted at the same time. So we have the men's 100 metres and then we've got the women's 100 metres, got the men's 200 metres and then the women's 200 metres. So I think we're quite lucky in that sense, whereas in other sports such as football, maybe you don't get that much coverage. It's doing well, it's doing a lot better. But I think, not going to lie, I think athletics is doing quite well. I think maybe more on the sports marketing side, it's a little bit different in the sense that male athletes get paid a lot more. But at the same time, in terms of that coverage sense, we're still getting that level playing field.
Yeah, and I love that you're so passionate about this because anyone that knows me knows that I'm a big sports girl as well. So I play netball like 3 times a week, literally addicted. And just seeing like the pay differences in some of the women that play netball who are at the peak of their sport, what they get paid versus males that are in maybe some higher profile sports but still at the peak of their profession is quite a big difference in terms of like the pay gap and also their experiences that they have in sport as well. So yeah, that's something that I'm really passionate about. So I love that you're more positive, I guess, about the way that athletics is represented versus some of the other sports. So I think that's really great. So I think just to take this back a little bit, so we know for International Women's Day, Break the Bias is the theme for 2022. Yeah. Have you got any thoughts about this, or would you like to share any thoughts on how we could go about breaking the bias or about your early experiences of bias?
I would say I've been exposed to bias for quite a long time, from a young age, really. I remember even in year 3, I sort of witnessed a girl call another girl the N-word. And I sort of flagged it with the teacher. I was in year 3 at the time and I got called the stirrer. So that was really pivotal for me because in that moment I thought I was doing the right thing and I ended up getting called the stirrer. But I think in terms of understanding the institutional bias on that level, that really became prevalent to me when I was in year 9. So I moved secondary schools, and when I moved to my secondary school, I came in at a certain level. I think you've got to do certain exams or whatever for GCSEs, right? Can't remember, like SATs or whatever. And I came in at a certain level, and I was expecting to be doing triple science, and I automatically got put into lower sets pretty much across all of my subjects. And I didn't mind at the time because I was like, well, maths is pretty much black and white. You get the answer right or you don't. And I love my teachers as well, so I didn't really think too much of it. But in particular with triple science, I really wanted to do it. And because I wasn't in the top set, I couldn't do it. And so it's also worth noting that I am an identical twin as well. So my mum sort of came up to the school and was like, look, my girls are more than capable of doing triple science. Please can we look to renegotiate and not so much renegotiate, but, look to see what we can do. And the school pretty much came back to us and said, there's not enough space in the classroom. It was sort of like a back and forth between my mum and the school for a good few months. And then come the new year, a new girl joined, and she not only got put into top set for science, she got put into top set for everything. And so for me at that time, I just thought, well, this is just really unfair because you're making space for her, but you're not making space in the class for my sister and I. And that was a really pivotal moment for me because, you know, schools are a place where you should be pushing people to thrive, young children to thrive. And I felt like that opportunity had been ripped from under me. And again, my mum went up to the school and she was like, actually, you know, you've let this girl go into the top set for science. Yeah. What about my girls? And the school basically said, oh, they've missed too much work. You know, it's going to be a lot for them to catch up. And she said, hang on, no. You don't know my girls. You don't know my girls. Give them the work and they'll do it. And then, yeah, my sister and I literally spent our summer holidays catching up on all that work that we missed. So, yeah, I would say that was my earliest memory of sort of institutionalized bias, which was, yeah, a pivotal moment for me, and it opened up my eyes a lot.
And I think what you're referring to is almost like a different angle that we've had from some of the series and the episodes that we've done previously. A lot of the time we've been maybe speaking about almost like male versus female bias, whereas I think what you're tapping into here is kind of like looking at the intersex within different women. So I'd love for you to talk more about like your experience as a woman of colour, as a Black woman, and potentially how, I guess like the importance of looking at different intersex within women, and that we shouldn't all be, you know, painted with one brush.
Yeah, it's a really great point, to be honest with you. Intersectionality is real. I experience bias as a woman and also as a woman of colour, but then also within that section as well, navigating life as a Black woman, there's colorism within that as well. Yeah. So I'm not going to be naive to the fact that I have benefited from society because of colorism as well. And I think, yeah, it's just great that we're having these open conversations, and it's really needed. I've experienced a lot as a Black woman. My mum and my granny are strong Black women, and they've just taught me the discipline of being resilient, and I love that about them. And at the same time, there's this narrative that, you know, Black women are always strong and, you know, all of this and all of that, which is fine. But at the same time, they need care and love as well. Absolutely. And at the end of the day, they are human, you know, and we go through the same troubles, the same struggles as anyone else. And we need that extra love and attention as well. So, yeah, that's what I would say about that. There's so many different nuances to this conversation. I could go on forever.
Same. Yeah. I was going to say one for us to take off camera, because I know we could sit here and chat about it for hours. Yeah. I guess just bringing it back to the wider picture, is there, I guess, like any experiences that you've had within like more of a corporate setting that you've potentially experienced any gender inequality, or perhaps not, or maybe a situation where someone like a male has uplifted you in a work situation? Just like interested to tap into that in a bit more detail.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I've been quite early on in my career within the tech industry. In terms of my professional career, I've only really been in tech for a year and a half. Mm-hmm. Before that, I've pretty much just been doing sport. So it's very interesting to navigate the differences between working in a sport environment and then coming into the corporate world. But I think I've been quite lucky in the sense that before I joined Samsung, I worked at an amazing organisation called Digital Catapult.
Okay.
And yeah, I pretty much did see a lot of gender balance there. Within Samsung, I would maybe say not as much. And I think we do need to have a little bit more work done there. But I think it's great that we've got these ERGs like Women at Samsung. We're having these open conversations as well. So yeah, I would say personally, I haven't experienced gender bias within the corporate setting. I don't think I've been around long enough to experience it. But I know that it is there within the corporate structure. And I think we do need to have a lot more women present in senior roles, and I think that's something that needs to be worked on.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing point, just about how we can almost like pave some of this forward and make sure that we're making a change. I think seeing more women in senior leadership positions is something that's really important. Do you have any other like tips for like big companies potentially that are looking at expanding the number of women in the business, what kind of like tips would you give to try and like for them to try and attract the best female talent?
I think it starts first of all within the corporate roles and the values that we have as a company. We need to want to have more women. I think that's where it starts, right? And then also in terms of the recruitment pool and the recruitment process, we need to make sure that we're tapping into that talent, and when we're actively looking to get women involved, because there are loads of women who want to be involved in tech. And it's just about making sure that we're looking in the right way. We've got the streamlined processes to make sure that we can do that. And I think we are working on that for sure. And I think ultimately that's where it starts, to be perfectly honest with you. We've got to want to have the change. If you don't want to have the change, action's going to be a bit slow, to be honest with you.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a really great point, and that's really interesting. So I think just bringing it back to International Women's Month, obviously it's a really positive time for women all over the globe, and it's a really good opportunity for us, even more than we usually do, to uplift each other and to empower each other. So can you tell us about a time where you felt particularly empowered, or any moments where you've been like, do you know what, I did a bloody good job at that, or any moments that you wanted to big yourself up?
Can I relate it back to sports?
Whatever you want, yeah.
Okay. So I remember for my first international competition, well, it was the year, right, 2013, and I was targeting to go to the World Youth Championships, and I ran the qualifying time, but at the trials I did terribly, like abysmally bad, like terrible, and ultimately I didn't get selected, and the pain that I felt then was awful, and I sort of made a commitment to myself that I never wanted to feel like that again. So I sort of sat down with my then coach at the time, and I was like, right, what are we going to do, to get me better, not make me die of lactic for like the last 100 meters. So we devised a plan, and we were like, okay, we need to work on this, we need to work on that. And it was sort of a process of not looking at the grandiose goal, but taking every day as it comes and making sure that I'm trying to do everything the best that I can within those next 24 hours to make me reach my goal. And then in 2014, I ended up winning the trials. I ran almost the qualifying time. None of us girls ran the qualifying time, but we went as a relay team and as a relay squad. And I went to my first international competition and I won a medal. And it was
that for you.
Yeah, it felt like a really empowering moment for me, because I was like, do you know what? I overcame that. That feeling that I felt in 2013 was awful for me, because I felt like, I ran the qualifying time, but at the trials I just sort of let myself down, and I just never wanted to do that again. And I think it's just always making sure that, you're always going to go through adversity in life. Not just sports, but in life. But it's always about how you bounce back from that. And at the same time, just remembering your why, like, why are you doing this? So, that's something that I felt really empowered about. And it's something that I'm going to take with me forever, really, in terms of my mindset to achieving my goals.
I love that. That's such an inspirational story, and actually something that could be applied to like any aspect of your life. Just that like grit and determination and devising a plan and having structure. It's like something that you can apply to work, or to if you were to do athletics again, like whatever. So I think that's really, really great. Okay, so to wrap up this episode, just a few Fireshot questions for you.
Okay.
So the first one is, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Feel the fear and do it anyway. Because I think if you want to dare to dream, you sort of have those, oh my God, am I going to fail? Yeah, maybe you might, and you're going to be really scared, but just feel the fear and do it anyway. And if you fail, so what? You're going to bounce back from it. So that's something that I would definitely say to my younger self, because I know that when I was younger, I definitely was like, oh no, I don't want to do it. And I look back and I'm like, I should have done that. Yeah. And I would have been okay.
I think that's advice that a lot of women would give to their younger self. And secondly, can you tell us about a role model that you have?
Yeah, and I know it's going to sound so cliche, but honestly, just my mum and my gran. My granny came over to the UK from Guyana when she was 18, and she has just been a pillar of strength for myself and for my family. And my mum, she just embodies resilience. I love her. That story that I told you about, my triple science. Yeah. She is just resilient in everything that she does, and just those two, they're amazing.
I love that answer. And then last one, in 3 words, what does gender equality mean to you?
Gender equality means to me hope, opportunity, because opportunity isn't always there, and freedom as well.
I love that. That's so great. Well, thank you so much for today.
This
has been such a great chat.
Almost
I forgot the cameras were on for a minute. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us. Please stay tuned for episode 5 of Shine a Light series for International Women's Month.